YouTube is up.
And then Movi jumps.
What's this guy's name?
Dogecoin.
His name is not Dogecoin.
It's called Daisy.
Daisy.
What do you think about that? Hello,
About
hello?
this dog?
Yeah.
I think it should move.
I feel like this was
Something
Evans.
Seems like it's wrong with it.
It should be alive. All right. So,
Excuse me, Ethan.
it's okay. Oh yeah. So today, let me go back to the beginning on questions. Deniz and I, so I'm one of the co-founders of FreeFly. My name's Tabb. Can you introduce
Deniz.
yourself?
I'm Deniz. I do software stuff, things like that.
And then we have Daniel operating Instagram Live, Chris operating YouTube Live, Cindy over here operating the computer and adding questions live. So if anyone has any additional questions that you think of as we're running through these questions, be sure and pipe them either Instagram or YouTube to Cindy, and we'll put them in the deck here and answer them at the end. So she'll be handling that, and we'll just dive right in. We've got a whole bunch of questions lined up to run through today. So first one, can I use Movi left-handed? I thought about this one for a while. I don't really think there's any good way to say that yes, you can use it left-handed other than just like a DSLR. You know, you can use it like a 5D or something like that. You still have to be primarily right-handed, but you can at least use your left hand to guide some of the motion if you're more comfortable with pointing with your left hand by adding it here. So the left-handed market is not quite big enough to make a custom left-handed Movi. So you have anything you want to add on that one?
Nothing
No?
different than a DSLR or any other camera.
Can I take Movi on the plane, or do I have to check it in? Yes, you can take Movi on the plane. You do not have to check it in. I just keep mine in my backpack whenever I travel. And you can also take them on a helicopter, which is very fun. Is Movi rainproof, and how long do the batteries last? Movi is definitely not rainproof, but it's weather resistant. So we built the thing to be as sealed up as possible. But definitely there's a few points where water could get in if it was if it was submerged in water, or if it was subjected to a heavy rain. You know, you've got like the USB-C port and the battery door here. They're fairly well sealed, but they're not totally waterproof. So I would say, I wouldn't use Movi in ultra wet conditions or underwater. Definitely not underwater. I don't recommend it for underwater use.
I think snow is kind of fine.
Yeah.
If it's spilled, you can like dust it off. Yeah, I've been using it like for 3-4 months of winter season, had no issues.
Yeah, for sure. And just try and keep, if you do have to work in wet environments, we know it happens, but just keep in mind like getting water in the USB port here and that kind of thing. There's a few points where it's more easy to get water inside the Movi, which is not going to like so much.
I would also say the trigger is another entry point for water drops.
Yeah. Was there another one on that one? How long do the batteries last? So batteries in my use last between 4 and 10 hours, depending on what you're doing with them. So if you're holding it outside the window of a car and you're going pretty fast, basically, if people don't know how Movi works, there's 3 motors. There's a pan motor, a roll motor, and a tilt motor. And these are little direct drive brushless motors. And so they try to stabilize Movi, and obviously if a bunch of wind is blowing here on the phone, it's going to have to work a little bit harder to stabilize and pan. So if you're driving fast or skiing fast or something like that, you're going to get a little bit lower battery life. And then the other thing that's going to impact how long your Movi lasts is how well balanced it is. So when you turn it off, is it pretty well balanced or is it way out of balance? And this one's set up with counterweights for the moment lens right now. So between 4 and 10 hours is what I've seen consistently. Can Movi attach to a tripod? Absolutely. There's a quarter 20 threaded hole on the bottom of Movi, a threaded insert, and then so you can just attach that to just about anything. It could be a tripod plate or a jib, a techno crane, whatever you want. Does it drain an iPhone 8 battery life pretty quickly? I wasn't exactly sure what this app or what this question meant, but our app drains battery on the iPhone just about as quickly as the native camera app. So it'll really depend on how much time you spend shooting in the camera, and then how much, what level of screen brightness do you set your screen to?
Yeah, when we tested our app for energy usage, 99% was the camera and the screen brightness, and that camera should not be any different from what the iOS default camera app is. So the app itself, aside from screen brightness and camera, like doesn't really use any power.
All right. Can I charge my iPhone while using Movi? Yes, you can. And even with the counterweight, we built it so that there's a little hole there that you can get a lightning cable into if you want to. That guy can just go right through there and plug in. So he's plugged in. And you can actually charge off of the Movi if you want to. Just plug in there. iPhone's now charging. The only thing you want to keep in mind is with this big cable sticking out, and most of these USB-C to lightning cables so far are not super flexible. So you're going to have a bit of a problem actually operating without that cable impacting the quality of your stabilization. So what I do typically if I'm shooting all day is when I stow the thing and put it in my bag, I'll just plug in and charge the iPhone in between shots. So I don't like to actually be shooting that much with the cable installed.
Apple ones are a little better than this one. They're a little more lightweight and more flexible.
Yeah.
But I would make sure you route it through like these arms and it doesn't like block the motion of the Movi.
Yeah, whenever you're routing a cable, however you can do it so that you're the least likely to bump the cable or tug, because basically you want the inner gimbal here, the pan, tilt, and roll motors, you want them working independently from your movements, if at all possible. Is there a way to make the moment battery case for an iPhone 8 Plus fit in Movi? No, it's just too big. It's just a whale of a case. How do I know when my Movi is in sleep mode? You want to show that guy?
Yeah. So sleep mode works in two ways. One of them is if Movi is in the pan lock, it will indicate it's sleeping by the blue color. Another way is if Movi is not pan locked, you can press once to go to sleep mode as well and press again to unlock it. So basically you will know if it's sleeping if the color is blue. And Movi will shut down after 10 minutes if it's sleeping.
The app? Or the...
Movi itself.
Got it. Okay. All right, I hear people can use Movi with Android somehow. How? And so I think what they're doing when they say that right now is they're just using Movi in Majestic Mode. So they're either just using it as it comes out of the box, or they're using an iOS device to set up the initial settings and then use it with their iPhone. In the future, we will be releasing an Android app. Right now, that's targeted for August 8th beta release. Is the last date I've seen from this young man. So
that sounds right. Yeah.
August 8th. Look for it. We just purchased like 1,000,000,001 Android devices to test, and none of them work the same as the other ones. So it's a beautiful thing.
Next week we'll also post a link to a poll where you can tell us which Android phones you use.
Yeah, if people want to comment in the comments and tell us what Android device you're using, that's super helpful because we'll prioritize testing with those early on. So, but just to be clear, if you have an Android phone and you want to use it now, you can use it. It'll just be stuck in Majestic Mode. You could make adjustments with iOS if you wanted to, and then run your Android device in there. But it'll be the fully featured app when we release it. Do the modes of Movi work if I'm filming in Filmic Pro?
Yes.
You want to take that one? Yeah.
Yeah. So just like the case with Android, when the app is not open, you cannot make use of the buttons. So these buttons talk to the app to do things, such as increasing, decreasing exposure, starting, stop, record. So none of the button functionalities until Filmic Pro implements our API will work. And then you won't be able to set up, for instance, like echo mode, the A/B points if you don't have the app open. But you can still do things like switching to Majestic Mode, going back to Filmic Pro and like recording from there. Or if you wanted to do a Movi lapse, you could switch to Movi lapse in our app and then switch back to Filmic Pro and maybe record a time lapse there. Aside from those two, yeah, like I said, you won't be able to use echo and time-lapse since you need to use the buttons to set up those. Same goes for orbit and barrel roll. App needs to be open to be able to command Movi to do those smooth moves.
Cool. Can I use the beta app to test and still use the regular app when needed with the same device?
That's usually a no, since every time we do a new release, it comes with a firmware and an app, and those need to be able to they need to be compatible with each other to do everything right. Such as we released 1.2 to beta, there were a few features that didn't work properly if you were still using the 1.1 firmware. So I would say the answer is usually a no.
Does the Movi app have tracking?
Not publicly. This is something we are still developing. It's not in the 1 month kind of time scale of release, just to be clear about that. But it's definitely on our roadmap.
Yeah, and I think when we do implement it, it'll be done a little bit differently than the way other people have. Like, we'll probably have tracking for faces and stuff like that, but also we'll have tracking for virtual points. So let's say, you know, I had a glass of wine that I wanted to film a nice revolve, and I would be able to touch and show, make it track that virtual point and then move it around and have the Movi automatically track that point. Are there plans to do long exposure, daytime and night lapses? It's an interesting idea, but there's currently no plan to implement that, but we'll definitely add it to the feature list backlog, and if we get time, explore it. It would be really, I would love personally the ability to do a little bit longer exposures on Movi Lapse, so you get a little bit of the frame blending look as you're cruising through spaces. It gives a, you know, a little bit smoother feel.
Yeah, setting just the shutter speed won't be enough, since you would need to use a lot of ND filters during daytime use. That's why we have a bunch of different ideas to implement it, but it's not in our short-term roadmap right now.
Can you rotate the clamp from vertical to horizontal mode? No, you can't do that, but you can rotate the whole Movi. If you unlock roll, or if you just want to set it up for portrait style shooting, you just rotate the Movi 90 degrees. We chose to go that way rather than a rotatable clamp because it's just more simple mechanically and just more reliable, I think, higher performance. The part of the thing that impacts how well a stabilizer performs is the rigidity of the whole system, and so we didn't want any, you know, rotating loose structure. We want the phone clamped in there as securely as possible, and I think it's just a more elegant solution. If I'm in portrait mode, does it provide the same stability as when it is horizontal? The answer to that one is yes, as long as you have things balanced correctly. So the one thing you have to think about is when you switch to portrait mode, your axes have now changed. Like, this one is tilt, this one is roll, and this one is pan. So if any of those were not balanced well, then it would show up perhaps differently, because, you know, if you're walking and you're going up and down like this, and the pan axis, what was formerly the pan axis, isn't balanced, it might shake up and down like this.
I have examples here too. These are without the counterweights back, so this needs some balance. Depending on what kind of case you have, you might need the counterweights to add a pan balance here. Whereas this one, let's check. Yeah, this one seems to be doing fine. So it's well balanced in pan axis. Pan is not trying to push down and fight the Movi.
But so the short answer there is, if you do see a difference in when you're shooting in portrait or landscape mode, investigate the balance. So because there shouldn't be a difference if it's set up properly. Can I shoot Instagram stories in portrait mode with Movi? Absolutely. You just either turn roll on if you want to have actual, like, fine control of roll, or you can move it like this, or you can just move the whole thing and set it so that we're now in portrait mode. And you're set up to shoot stories.
Just as a heads up for those who might not know, to be able to be in portrait mode, your tilt needs to be unlocked. So just make sure your tilt is unlocked. If you're trying to put Movi this way, but it's not trying to go, that's probably why.
All right. Why do I see some people with camera weights? Most of the time when you see people with these counterweights, and the term for them is counterweights, that's what we call them, it's because they want to run an external lens for some particular reason. I usually like to run the moment wide just because I think the wide field of view makes the videos from the iPhone much more interesting and dynamic. So the reason why they have to be there is because the moment lens, it adds quite a bit of mass to the camera. So you have to counter that.
This has the case if you want to show.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what this weighs, but it's
Those
quite a bit.
lenses are pretty heavy.
They're pretty heavy, and when we originally started designing the Movi, we weren't going to support external lenses. That was the direction we were going. But then after we spent more time shooting with the iPhone, we just became so excited about how much more interesting the content was when you could shoot with a wide or a tele or even an anamorphic. We got just the latest anamorphic lens from Moment, and it's fantastic. I mean, to be able to shoot a little anamorphic camera on a Movi that can go in your backpack in 2 seconds is just killer.
If you have cheaper lenses that are plastic, not high quality like glass ones like Moment ones, you could probably get away without using any counterweights. But for heavier lenses, especially since they also let you like add ND filters and other things, it gets pretty heavy and puts Movi out of balance.
Yeah, and one point I want to be clear on in this is it's not like a binary thing like on or off, like it will or it won't work. Basically, if you did the most perfect job of balancing it, then you're going to get really perfect footage. But if you do a really poor job of balance it, you're going to get poorer footage, and you're free to operate anywhere on that continuum. A lot of the people said, how come you can't have just a simple weight like clips onto the Osmo or whatever? We could do that, and you could do that, but it doesn't allow you to balance it well. And one of the things that we're really interested in here is getting the best quality footage we can from the mobile filmmaking package. And because of that, we chose to make a counterweight system, which is basically infinitely adaptable and we also wanted it to be forward compatible because we knew, stuff like this is gonna come out, the filter add-on is gonna come out, anamorphic lens is gonna come out, and you don't wanna have to buy a new counterweight every time you do that. Whereas with an adjustable one, you can dial it in quickly. Yeah. So what I would say there is depending on the level of perfection you're after, feel free to run with an unbalanced Movi, feel free to run with a very well balanced Movi. It's your choice wherever you want to operate on that continuum. And another point to hit on, you won't hurt anything. The motors are direct drive, there's no gearing, there's nothing in there that could be damaged. They have temperature sensing, so you're not going to overheat them, you're not going to melt them, it's fine. We've done much worse things to the Movi than you could ever do yourself, specifically Daniel. Where can I buy the weights? You can buy them at our store, gomovi.com. They're in the accessories there. I can never get it to balance with Moment lenses, and when I turn it, it just shakes.
Two different issues.
When I auto-tune it, it shakes until I have to start. So I can run through, I've done it before in more detail. There's actually a specific YouTube video about how to balance with iPhone 8 Plus. But the steps you want to do, you want to make sure that you're balanced in this orientation, which this one's very close. So we want to see if it goes up or down here, like is tilt too heavy on the top or too heavy on the bottom. So we're close there, and then we can go here and check roll. This looks very good, it's staying. And then we can go sideways, and here we're checking pan. It's a little bit out of balance on pan, but not too bad. So if you can get it like that level of closeness, that's a good starting point. And then if you're shaking while you're moving, that means that your tuning is too high. So I would first start off by trying the low or the regular tuning. And then if you want to do the auto tune, you can run auto tune for your particular setup. Just reduce the auto tune percentage until you don't get any buzzing. The other thing is make sure that you're holding it firmly. If you're kind of holding it super loose in your hand, sometimes as pan's trying to stabilize, it might wiggle around a little bit in there. So just try holding it firmly as an option also.
Yeah, we should clarify that, I think. The default auto-tune percentage is, I think, 40%. And just from our recent test, this seems to be a little high for some people.
Yeah, 30% seems to work better.
Yeah, so reduce it less than 40. So recommending 30%, 35%.
And don't be scared to go down on it. obviously, like, you want the best performance you can get, but also if you get shaking while you're moving, it's definitely going to ruin the footage. So it's much better to be a little bit lower than a little bit too high. My Movi shakes a lot and I can't get it to stop. Is it broken? It could be broken, but I don't think it is. I think you're having the same problem that we just discussed with tuning. So try things I would think about to troubleshoot if your Movi is shaking. Make sure the phone is mounted securely in the clamp. Make sure if you're using any counterweights, these are all very tight. Just so everybody understands what's happening, there's a sensor package in here and these motors, and they're trying to command the Movi, you know, potentially thousands of times a second to keep perfect stability. So if anything's loose in that chain, it can cause shaking. So I would check those and then also reduce the tuning as the next step. If I had an ND filter and adapter, will the counterweight balance an iPhone 7 Plus and a moment wide lens? I don't think with the counterweights that we ship to you, if you have counterweights, you would be able to achieve perfect balance with that, but I think it would be close. And then because of the recent addition of the counterweight or the filters and the moment filter kit, we've been thinking about adding accessory packs for weights so you can just add more weights. One of the cool things about the way these weights are designed is you can just continue adding weights to achieve the right balance you need. So I think with the addition of this much weight, you might need to add a little bit more weight to the counterweights. So I think that's something that we'll look at in the future, is selling accessories. Also, if you need to do something really quick and you want to hack it, these are just 3mm threaded holes here. You could screw anything in there that has any type of weight to it to help balance.
Previous question.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you still can't get it to like stop shaking after making sure it's balanced well and you go through auto tuning, last thing you should do before contacting customer support is trying to reset robot settings. If that doesn't help either, you might have a hardware issue.
The other thing I do if my Movi won't stop shaking is I just yell, "Deniz, Deniz," and it usually gets fixed. So you could try that as well. If you're close, he might hear you. He's got good hearing. We talked about that one. Does the counterweight bang on the side if you're in portrait mode? Yeah, it can, for sure. You have to be a little bit careful with it, especially depending on if you're using a Plus or a really large phone. You do have a more reduced range to work with, so you have to be a little more cognizant. And the reason why that is, it was kind of a design trade-off. So you can imagine if we didn't want that to happen ever in all different poses, the Movi would have had to get quite a bit bigger, maybe come all the way down to there with the handle. And that was a compromise that we were unwilling to make because a lot of people don't use external lenses, and that would have made the user experience quite a bit worse for them. So it works well enough, I think, with the counterweight and the external lens, even on the big phone, but you definitely do have to be a little bit more precise with your hand placement and maybe practice a little bit more.
One recommendation actually, if you have counterweights, sometimes you can get away with not using too much weights and like open these up all the way. One thing you can try is adding more weights and then bringing them closer inside. This way you'll have more clearance here.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is you can try, you can flip these around, these little dog leg guys that mount the counterweight, and sometimes with different phones you're able to find a pose where the thumb screw isn't as likely to hit as it would be otherwise. So you can kind of disassemble the counterweight, and here I'll show you what I mean. You can unscrew these guys and flip them around, use them on the other side, and that changes the pose. So you can see when you do it this way, the thumb screws are on the outside, and when you do it this way, the thumb screws are on the inside. So that gives you a lot of flexibility and options.
Smart.
All right. How do you put on the hoodie, and what other accessories does Movi have?
Hoodie.
Yeah, great. Throw it on there. Here we go.
I don't think you're supposed to use it like
It
that.
actually looks like a little muzzle for this guy. So he just slips over there, kind of slips on, kicks it back, and then you take this O-ring, and can you get that guy? I can't get it from the angle I'm in. There's an O-ring that you just loop over a little tab, to attach it.
Just like that.
And what we didn't show is there's a quarter 20 screw which goes through here, so you could attach it to. Here, let's pop it off and I'll show you.
Cold shoe.
Oh, the one Dante had?
Yeah.
I don't have.
We're gonna put that on our website, I think, right?
Yes. I don't have good enough fingernails to get that off.
Yeah. One thing to do is, I think we can share the link as well. But there's a cold shoe you can attach here, with the quarter 20, and then you can keep attaching all the accessories a lot easier.
Yes.
You don't have to get rid of the hood, and then unscrew this every time you want to change your accessory that way.
You can go, and if you don't want to wait for us to get ours live, you can buy them off Amazon for $1 or $2. You can just go on Amazon, buy a little cold shoe add-on, and that'll allow you to mount one half of it to your mic, one half of your Movi, and just click it in. That was a good tip from our forum from somebody. How do you add a portable mic with the attachment? Is there a particular cold shoe needed? Yeah, same thing. Just go on Amazon and search cold shoe. There's a bunch of them on there for $1 or $2.
They have pretty low profile too.
My phone always bumps to the side when I do barrel roll. What's wrong?
Nothing.
Nothing?
I don't think anything is wrong. Well,
so I think what could be going on when you do a barrel roll, it's kind of counterintuitive at first, but you have to turn the Movi at roughly the same rate as it's doing its barrel roll. So you kind of you have a little bit of leeway, a little bit of flexibility, but you got to be somewhat close. So if you're not cognizant of keeping it in the middle, you can definitely hit like I'm hitting there. But if you pay attention to keeping the outer frame rotating about the same rate as the camera, you can do a good job of staying in the middle.
in barrel roll, you pretty much only have one job to do, really. Like,
Yeah.
Movi takes care of doing a perfect roll at a fixed rate. Your only job is to make sure you're kind of following what the Movi is doing.
Well, and you got a frame if you're going pro. You actually got to be doing majestic corners and all kinds of interesting stuff. So I would just try and make sure you have the maximum amount of clearance you can if you're running a counterweight setup, anything like that, and then practice matching the speed of the barrel roll. How do I set the roll for a Dutch angle in Majestic? When roll is unlocked, it doesn't work. I think he's saying he or she is saying they want to set a specific roll and keep it. There's not really a way to do that right now except for in barrel roll mode.
Oh.
You can.
Well, you could probably do it if you have a lot of window. You could get away with that.
I don't know if it'd stay. But with barrel, the way I've done it is, let's say I want to do a shot where, I've got that much roll angle for the whole shot. I'll go into barrel roll mode. I'll set my end feature to hold, and then I'll get the roll level that I like, and then I can operate just as I normally would as a Majestic shot, and it'll keep that level of roll for the whole shot. All right. Recommendations on setting for recording fast-paced sports like skateboarding. Yeah, I would just be in Majestic with the window as narrow as you can get away with and still liking the way the footage looks, and then set the speed or the response to fast.
If you're on the skateboard yourself, I think I would recommend having like 1 or 2 bars of window so that you don't always have to look at the camera.
Yeah.
You can kind of correct it and then still be able to have a little bit tolerance where the Movi is ignoring your moves within that window.
The other thing to consider if you're actually skating and doing chase shots too, a lot of times when I'm doing that, I don't want to deal with having tilt move every time I accidentally move, so I'll put tilt lock on, and what that does, it allows you to set the angle of tilt that you're happy with, and then leave it, and it'll stay, which is nice when you're skating or trying to focus on too many things at once. My Movi died really fast. Why?
Balance.
Yeah. So I would say either balance was really bad, but even that shouldn't make it die really fast. I would guess that the button got pressed in your bag and the batteries weren't fully charged, or you have bad batteries. I think that's the only things that come to mind on that one. So reach out to customer support and they'll get you fixed up for sure. Can you recalibrate? My horizon always seems to be a bit canted.
Answer to this, yeah. If it's 1 to 2 degrees off, we are planning to expose a roll trim option so that you can kind of compensate that. But if you have a lot more than 1-2 degrees, you should probably contact support, right?
Yeah. The only other thing you can do is you can just let your Movi sit for a little bit and see if it gets better. There's some code in this thing that should correct the horizon if you let it sit for a minute, but if you have a unit that won't do that, then definitely contact support. How can I reset Movi to its central position?
I think this question comes from using orbit.
Yeah.
Mainly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good point. I think it's something we need to improve in the future when you're midway through a complex shot like orbit or barrel roll mode. We don't have an easy way to get back to the starting point.
Main annoying one is the default for barrel roll for when the motion is done is hold. So people are confused with that. They do their motion and then they stop, but like Movi is not going back. So first of all, you should turn this to snap. That's one thing you can do. Otherwise, in barrel roll and orbit mode, think of it as these modes having some majestic window and very slow response. That's why it takes a while for it to come back to center.
Ever connect Movi to a chest mount for action shots? Convenient? I haven't, and I'm not convinced it would work very well. You could do it for sure if you built a little platform that got it out far enough that it could stabilize as you walked around. The thing I would be concerned with, depending on the phone that you're using, most of the phones these days have optical image stabilization, and the more rigidly you try and mount those two things, the less awesome the footage looks. So part of why the Movi looks so good is as a human's arms taking some of the shock as we walk and jump and ride and bike and skate and all these other things. How many degrees can Movi rotate? Let's look with this one. So it can rotate. In pan, it can go all the way from there to there. In roll, it can go, in tilt, it can go from there to there. And then roll, it can go from there all the way over to there. And the range is limited by these hard stops. And those are installed, or those are designed so that there's FPC that runs like a flexible circuit board that runs to take power and signal to all the motors in the Movi. Those mechanical stops are designed to keep that stuff from breaking. That's why they're there.
Yeah. That's why we designed the barrel roll in a way that if you keep following the Movi, you are not limited to those hard stops.
Do you have any discounts for Movi? No, but we have cool contests that you can enter on the webpage. Can I get a Movi in Australia, India, South Africa, and Indonesia? Yes, you can. I'll immediately dispatch Cindy to deliver one to those countries today. Pack your bags, Cindy.
On my way. I've got some plane tickets ready to go.
Have you ever?
Oh yeah.
Can I come with you?
No.
Solo trip? You need some alone time?
Yeah.
Cindy was a bit grumpy the other day, so she might need a little quiet time. Have you ever thought to create a remote control for Movi? Yes, that's a great idea. I think we'll most likely build it into a cell phone at a future undisclosed date. So you can use a secondary cell phone to control Movi. And actually Banji already has a remote control built into the Android app that we showed on Instagram Live, I think. What's it called? Teleport?
Oh, Telepod.
Telepod.
It's like Teletubbies.
Telepod.
Yeah.
So on Banji's implementation of Android right now, you can control your Movi from a computer or a web browser remotely, which is really cool. So you could set it up, you could set it up to monitor your house and be able to pan and tilt from work or wherever you got to go.
Whoever had that question, also let us know how you are planning to use the remote control.
Yeah.
We love hearing about your specific use cases so we can design it better.
Will we be able to pan tilt in the future without moving the whole Movi?
So every single person I contacted back asking like why they want to use buttons and whether Majestic wasn't intuitive enough, all of them came back to us saying like that we were kind of right, that they would actually now prefer using it in Majestic mode.
Yeah.
So we are not really planning to add pan tilt buttons for control here. One of the biggest reasons is the Majestic is very intuitive and precise. And number two is these buttons are not like joysticks, they are buttons. So you cannot have precise control over these.
So my comment on that would be, if you wanted to actually control pan and tilt on a robot or a gimbal, you have to have a really high quality joystick to do so precisely. And most of the kind of consumer gimbals don't have switches or joysticks that are good enough to control it even close to as well as Majestic can control. I mean, with Majestic, I can control this like just beautiful 1 degree pan left if I can move my body smoothly enough, whereas the notion of trying to figure out how to make a button control that, and also I not only just do 1 degree perfectly, I can also do 20 degrees per second if I want to in the same thing. So I think the way, after you try it, the way that Majestic Mode functions is very intuitive. Cindy has a question.
I have a comment in
Yep.
that they would want to do it when they're tripod mounted, the pan and the tilt. So
Oh.
I wondered if that was an opportunity to talk about smart.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, for sure. Smart pod. Why do you, I'm curious. I would like to understand more why you want to use the buttons rather than setting it by hand.
Another thing you can do if you have Movi on a tripod is still keep it in Majestic Mode, but use the tripod and like steer with the tripod. Yeah, I'm still not super convinced the joystick is the best solution for the use case.
Yeah, but if you can convince Deniz to add that feature, it definitely could do it, those buttons. But he's pretty backlogged with features right now. While moving Movi with your hand, while the motors are trying to steady the phone, burn out the motors quicker. No, the motors will never burn out. Never, ever. When you want to change from landscape to portrait, no, you don't have to worry about the motors.
Do whatever you want.
There's only a few moving parts in the Movi, and the motor's just a shaft and a bearing. So and it's barely moving, and the rotation speeds are super slow. So it should last forever. When will iPhone X zoom lens be available in Movi app settings?
I think this is
10.
gonna come.
I said X10.
Oh, this is on our short-term roadmap for sure. We have prototype ready for like internal testing. I would say August or September. We should have it public.
But one issue there,
Yeah.
there's the iPhone 10 has optical image stabilization on both the wide and the tele lens, so it can be very difficult to get smooth footage under demanding situations with the zoom lens. Any special tricks or tools for removing the O-ring on the hoodie?
Removing is more difficult for sure.
Yeah. So on the one I used, I agree, it is tougher than we hope to get it off. I put a little loop of tape or fabric around it so I can grab that and remove it. But we're also going to come out with I shouldn't say we're going to come out. We're experimenting with a new design O-ring that has a little pull tab to make it easier for that. But I agree, it is difficult. Sorry about that. Are the screws for the counterweight supposed to be difficult to screw and unscrew?
No.
Yes, we did
Is it
that as
difficult?
a challenge of your strength. So we wanted to make sure that your finger strength was very strong. I'm not sure which ones you're talking about, but these ones that actually screw into the Movi, it should be very smooth to screw in and then snug up. And then these ones are actually clamping. So if you see what it's doing, it's actually bending this aluminum to clamp on these different features. So those ones should be a little bit tough to tighten because it's actually deforming the aluminum. Anything you want to add? No? Can I get replacement batteries? Definitely. I think we have these in the store now. Do we have these in the store now? Not yet. Not in the store yet, but will be soon. So you can buy the batteries that we ship it with, or any 18650s will work as long as they're high quality 18650s. They're just a standard lithium ion cell. What are these photographs in the background? Nobody said that. These are just...
No, I put his name in there so you know.
These are just prints that we did. I got a Fuji medium format camera and snapping some photos around the place and wanted to print a few of them out. And one of them is of Cindy with her tongue out, and it makes her happier than anything else in the world.
I give my own shout out.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that.
good.
Yeah.
Click to add text.
Click that text.
That's it. We're at the end of the road. Any other questions that came up that you want to hit, Cindy?
I've got everything.
How about you, Daniel? Anything on Insta? Okay, cool. All right. Well, Dennis and I are gonna get back to work developing features and going for walks and doing all the things that we do here at FreeFly. You guys, you want to end with just a quick lap around the place, just show off some of the stuff we're building. Oh, Daniel, you should showcase Carbon a little bit. Oh, yeah. We're getting really close to launch date on Carbon. Yeah. There's another live next week. There's also, Cindy, how do they get to the new Movi contest?
GoMovi.com.
GoMovi.com. There's a new contest there.
Right up.
It's got all of our favorite partners involved: Peak Design, ORing, all the stuff we love. So we got some cool contests there. You can thank Rory for the better audio. So he's fixing us right up. Yeah. Till next week. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Are they filming each other? Like they're like cats petting each other.
Does this work? So this is Movi Carbon, and it's getting ready to ship as soon as we can get it working perfectly, because we wouldn't want to sell something that doesn't work perfectly, obviously. But it's pretty sweet. It allows you to shoot with 270 millimeter focal length, and the footage is buttery smooth. So it's a 5-axis gimbal. You get 2 more axes than a normal Movi Pro. And with gimbals and axes, the more the merrier. So it's pretty great. I'm very excited about it. Are you excited, Dennis?
For sure, especially with the new lens choice you made. The Fuji lens looks a lot better than the other Sony lens we had, and the footage and the shoot in the previous weeks was awesome. Very excited.
All right. What do you think about Carbon?
I'm excited. Email us if you want one of these. We're only making a few to start with, so get in early if you want one. I'm going to take this guy out on the X5 right now.
You heard it here first, folks. Movi Carbon, coming soon. Signing off. Goodbye.